The Seraphim. The envoy of the sky, the Seraphim, as the Padre will later call him, appears to him again on the morning of September 20, 1918. This time he will painfully impress in the flesh of the Capuchin the same stigmata that were administered symbolically a few years ago. But this time the blood will run daily from the 5 wounds inflicted on Padre Pio's hands, feet, and side, recalling the martyrdom of Christ. And this martyrdom, every day renewed, will last 50 years. A month later, in a letter to Father Paolino, who surprised him bleeding, in his cell, he will tell the story of this event. I was in the choir, gathering and praying, after the celebration of Holy Mass, when I was surprised by a numbness close to sleep. After the immense suffering of the last weeks, my senses seemed soothed and my soul itself had found calm and perfect serenity. Suddenly, I saw appear before me, the mysterious character who had come to torment me on the evening of August 5th. But this time, the vision was terrifying. From his hands, feet, and side blood was flowing in abundance. I can hardly express what I felt at that moment. I felt myself dying. I would probably be dead if the Lord had not come to support my heart leaping in my chest. The vision faded away and I realized that the blood was dripping from my injured hands, feet, and side. Imagine my torment. And this torture continues almost daily. From the wound of the heart the blood flows continuously, especially from Thursday night to Saturday. This new appearance revives his disorder. He gnaws inside, seeks to understand, but neither his devotions nor his prayers bring any precise answer to his doubts. He is very afraid of misinterpreting his vision. How dare he imagine that Jesus sent his angel to inflict on him the own stigmata of his divinity, to make him like him? To think that was not the worst blasphemy? No, it could only be another attempt of the evil one, Satan, to tempt him. By painfully marking his flesh with the wounds of Christ, did not the demon want to make him sin by pride? Moreover, in the moving account he made of this fateful day, he adds, "My Father, I am dying at the same time of this physical torment which renders me bloodless, and of the deep trouble of my soul. Will Jesus, who is goodness, give me the grace to remove from my heart the confusion I feel for these signs? I beg him that his mercy removes from me not torture, pain, but disarray that tortures me even more than suffering." He's ashamed. Padre Pios is ashamed of what's happening to him. He conceals as much as possible his sufferings and the 2 visible signs of his martyrdom. He covers his hands with mittens except during Mass, during which the sleeves of his cassock hide his wounds. But with the end of the war, the rescued and demobilized monks returned to the convent. And, despite the secrecy he imposed on himself and whose respect for his loved ones, the affair was soon rumored and, as early as the spring of 1919, an Italian journalist from Il Giornale d'Italia devotes an article about this strange Capuchin, stigmatized by the convent of Notre Dame des Graces, lost on the inhospitable plateaus of Mount Gargano. Other newspapers take up information, distort it, exaggerate it, and soon the new sensational is circumnavigating the world. Despite the unchangeable rule of the Catholic Church to hide the gifts, favors, and graces granted by God to his servants and his saints, the fame of Padre Pios will be immediate and his fame immense. Immediately thousands of poor people break into the modest hermitage of Mount Gargano to see the wounds of Jesus inflicted on the holy man and to confess to him in order to obtain the remission of their sins. From there, it is a real delirium that seizes newspapers that publish testimonies of fantastic miracles, incredible healings, supernatural events. Serious trouble. But this advertising, often very bad, is soon worth serious trouble to the poor Capuchin brother. First of all, from the hierarchy of the Church, which does not look very favorably at a phenomenon that escapes it completely. Then from the civil authorities, to whom the disorder caused by the displacement of these thousands of pilgrims in one of the poorest regions of the country, poses serious problems. Also, on a morning in June, 1919, the Royal Carabinieri, sent by the prefect of Foggia on the orders of the ministry, arrived at the convent to inquire into this affair, which was causing great anxiety. The mission order stipulates inter alia, that hygiene measures made necessary by the influx of so many people from countries infected with smallpox and possibly typhus, as well as only by the fanaticism of the believers, who crowd around the religious, who is affected by a serious pulmonary tuberculosis, and pick up the bloody specks he emits. We must provide a decent public security service by sending reinforcements of guards and carabineers, especially since the fanatics, encouraged by those who have every interest in maintaining this abject industry, have been using blatant threats for the last few days. And a cult to intimidate those who are contrary opinion. Controversy. As in all cases of this kind, the controversy soon raged between those who believed in the sanctity of Padre Pios and those who shouted scandal and imposture. Some even came to the hands. We exchanged horions, invectives, and blows between opponents. Surveys. Between 1919 and 1920, medical investigations and superiors' visits followed one another. Some luminaries of the faculty and pontiffs delegated by the Roman Curia examine the stigmata of the Father and establish long reports. Some are very supportive of Padre Pios. They mention his simplicity, his faith, his modesty, his obedience. Doctors Romanelli and Festa humbly observe that all their science fails to explain the phenomenon of these deep wounds, which do not become infected, that do not heal, of this blood which flows clear of the 5 wounds of the monk. They have no scientific answer to propose. Dr. Romanelli also notices the sweet smell that comes from the stigmatized and the linens that touched his wounds, while normally the blood corrupts quickly and feels pretty bad. The medical reports of Dr. Bignami and Dr. Merla, on the other hand, and especially the ecclesiastical reports of Father Gemelli, a specialist in mysticism, and Bishop Gagliardi of the district, strive to demonstrate a hysterical or nervous origin of these wounds, speak of autosuggestion and deceit. For that, they deform facts, pass others under silence, advance some untruths or even blatant lies. Asked about his own case, Padre Pios has a serene explanation. All that Jesus suffered in his passion, I suffer too, as far as it is possible for a human creature. And this despite my lack of merit and by his only goodness. The controversy does not remain confined for a long time in a narrow circle of specialists, it quickly becomes political and media. Passions are unleashed between atheists and believers, materialists and Catholics, Freemasons and Knights, communists and fascists. The invectives fuse on both sides, causing a huge success of popular curiosity. But the controversy also takes place between clerics of the Church. The jealousy of certain religious towards this poor mystic monk, whose stigmata attract hundreds of visitors and rich offerings daily to the little village, is transformed into tenacious hate. Vile slander is thus spread in the secrecy of the sacristies. Daily miracles. Yet this Homeric dispute only very muffled the doors of the convent of Our Lady of the Graces, where Padre Pio said Mass every day, confessed hundreds of penitents, blessed the pilgrims more and more numerous, taught and catechized the children. The graces bestowed on him by heaven, miracles are almost daily. The public rumor reports quite strange facts, incredible healings, marvelous conversions. On October 14, 1920, after municipal elections won by the left, bloody disorders occur in front of the San Giovanni town hall, and turn to tragedy. Communists wanting to hoist the red flag to the balcony instead of the Italian flag, the Carabinieri intervene, but one of them is killed during the skirmish. Their response is very strong and the demonstrators abandon 14 dead and more than 20 wounded in the square. The leftist newspapers treated Padre Pios as a fascist for supporting the former mayor and blessing the tricolor banner of the veterans before asking for assistance for the soul of those who had died on the battlefield. But this drama, if it reignites the controversy, does not dry the enthusiasm of the pilgrims and admirers of Padre Pios. The threat hanging over the monk comes only from his own, from the highest ecclesiastical authorities, from the Vatican itself. Thanks for watching, share, comment, and subscribe. Saint Padre Pios pray for us.